The wind screamed across the jagged peaks of the Sierra Madre, clawing at Elias' threadbare jacket like it wanted to rip the last warmth from his bones. He was 12, maybe 13, no one had kept count since the orphanage fire, and the mountains didn't take care about birthdays. Snow crusted his eyelashes as he crouched behind a boulder, gnawing on a frozen pine needle to trick his stomach into silence. Below, the world was a white void; above, the sky bled violet with dusk. Then he heard it, a thin, desperate cry threading through the gale. Elias peered over the rock. A girl, no older than he was, staggered through knee-deep drifts. Her braided hair was caked with ice, her deerskin dress shredded at the hem. One moccasin was gone, leaving a raw foot that painted the snow pink. She clutched a small bundle to her chest, something wrapped in faded red cloth, and kept whispering a word Elias didn't know. The wind stole it before it reached him. It should have stayed hidden. Hanger had taught him that strangers were danger, that kindness was a luxury for people with roofs. But the girl's knees buckled, and the bundle slipped. It rolled, unraveling, and a tiny carved horse tumbled out, wooden, painted with ochre symbols, now half buried in snow. She lunged for it, sobbing, and Elias felt something crack inside his chest, like ice giving way on a river. It was moving before he decided to. Boots numb, he slid down the slope, grabbed the horse, and pressed it into her trembling hands. Her eyes, dark as river stones, met his. Gracias, she whispered, the Spanish word surprising him. Then, in a language that sounded like wind through cedar, she said something else. She pointed east, toward a pass swallowed by storm clouds. Home, he guessed. Family. The bundle was all she had left of them. Elias knew these mountains the way a stray dog knows alleys, every false trail, every sudden drop. They crossed them twice running from border patrols, once chasing rumors of a town with a soup kitchen. If the girl tried alone, the storm would bury her by morning. He took her hand, Ismael, calloused, burning with fever, and pulled her upright. Vamos, he said, the word tasting like courage. They walked through the night. The girl, her name was Ixchel, she told him when the wind eased, leaned on him when her legs failed. He gave her his jacket, then his last strip of jerky. When the path narrowed to a knife-edge ridge, he tied his belt around her waist and anchored it to his own, so if she slipped, they'd fall first. Snow filled their footprints almost as fast as they made them. At one point, a coyote's howl echoed too close. Ixchel froze, clutching the wooden horse like a talisman. Elias picked up a rock, hard hammering, and shouted until his throat bled. The howl retreated. Dawn found them on the far side of the pass. The storm had spent itself, leaving a world scrubbed clean and glittering. Below lay a valley Elias had never seen. Green even in winter, threaded with smoke from hidden chimneys. Ixchel's breath hitched. She pointed to a cluster of adobe houses nestled against a cliff painted with ancient symbols. Her people. Her home. She tried to give him the horse. For you, she said in careful Spanish. You saved me. Elias shook his head. The toy was her luck, her ancestor, her everything. He closed her fingers around it. Keep it safe, he told her. Y ella find my own way. Ixchel hugged him so hard his ribs creaked. Then she was running, braids flying, calling out in her language. Figures emerged from the houses, women in woven shawls, men with rifles slung easy across their backs. Elias backed away, suddenly aware of how he must look, filthy, ragged, a ghost from the wrong side of the mountains. He turned to leave. That was when the earth trembled. Not an earthquake, always. City riders crested the ridge behind the village, horses painted with red handprints, riders in feather and leather. Warriors. Elias' stomach dropped. They heard stories, tribes who protected their own with blood and fire. They trespassed, taken one of theirs across sacred ground. He raised his hands, empty, and waited for arrows. The led rider, a woman with silver streaking her braids, dismounted. She studied Elias the way a hawk studies a mouse, then spoke rapidly in Ixchel's tongue. The girl answered, words tumbling like stones in a river. She pointed to the pass, manned the belt rope, the jerky, the coyote. The woman's gaze softened. She beckoned Elias forward. He went, knees shaking. The warriors parted. At their center stood an old man, face carved deep as canyon walls, eyes sharp as obsidian. He held the wooden horse Ixchel must have given him. When he spoke, his Spanish was slow, deliberate. You carried my granddaughter through the spirit teeth. The mountains take, you gave back. What is your name, boy? Elias, he croaked. The old man placed a hand on Elias' shoulder. It was warm, steady. Elias. Tonight you eat with us. Tomorrow we talk of debts. They fed him beans thick with chilies, blue corn tortillas still smoking from the como. Children stared at his city shoes, worn through to the sole. Ixchel sat beside him, translating laughter. When the drums began, Elias' exhaustion cracked open into something like jaw. He fell asleep under a sky so starred it hurt to look at. He woke to the smell of coffee and the old man's voice. The pass is closed again. You stay until spring. It wasn't a question. Elias opened his mouth to protest, he had no claim here, but the old man was already walking away, warriors trailing like shadows. Spring took its time. Elias learned to mend roofs with adobe the color of sunset. He learned words, Jai for ska, si for me, le cha, for dog. The warriors taught him to ride bareback, to track deer by broken twigs, to listen for the mountain smooths. Ixchel taught him to carve. His first horse was lopsided, one leg shorter than the rest, but she painted it anyway and hung it above the door. He wrote letters he never sent, addressing them to no one. Dear ma'am, the sky here is bigger than any city. Dear whoever finds this, I think I'm home. One evening, the old man, Grandfather Tejo, the village called him, took Elias to the cliff paintings. Torchlight flickered over figures thousands of years old, hunters, corn maidens, a boy leading a girl by the hand across impossible heights. Our stories say kindness is a seed, Tejo said. Plant it anywhere, it grows. He pressed something into Elias' palm, a necklace of turquoise and bear claw. For the boy who carried my heart across the mountains. Elias' eyes burned. I have to go back someday, he whispered. There are others. Kids like me, cold and lost. Tao native. Then go. But first, learn what you carry forward. Years passed in the rhythm of seasons. Elias grew tall, shoulders broad from hauling water, hands sure with a knife. He spoke the language like breathing. When the pass opened each spring, he guided lost travelers, migrants, renegades, once a park ranger with a broken ankle. Word spread, the boy from nowhere who knew the mountains, secrets. Then came the spring he turned 18. The village threw a feast. Drums thundered, fires leaped high enough to touch the stars. Ixchel, now a young woman with Ejaler's steady hands, danced with him until they were breathless. At dawn, Tejo called the council. City warriors stood in a circle, same as that first morning. But this time, they knelt. One by one, they laid gifts at Elias' feet, a bough of yew wood, a quiver fletched with eagle feathers, a horse the color of storm clouds. Thou spoke for all. You came a stranger. You leave our son. The mountains are yours to guard, wherever you walk. Elias tried to speak, his throat closed. Ixchel pressed the wooden horse, now polished smooth by years of handling, into his hands. For the road, she said. Here has held everything unsaid. He left at sunrise, leading the storm-colored horse. Behind him, the village lined the ridge, 30 warriors raising rifles in salute. Ahead, the pass gleamed with new snow. Elias touched the bear claw at his throat and felt the seed Tejo spoke of take root in his chest. Months later, a dusty border town buzzed with rumor. A young man had opened a shelter in an abandoned mission, cots for runaways, hot meals, stories told in 2 languages. On the door hung a carved horse, lopsided but proud. Kids called the man Hermano Elias. They said if you were lost, truly lost, they find you. They said they crossed mountains once to save a girl, and the mountains gave him back 30 brothers. Elias never corrected the stories. Some nights, he stood on the mission roof and looked north. The Sierra Madre rose like a promise against the stars. He touched the necklace, whispered thanks to the wind, and went back inside to light another lamp. Because kindness is a seed. Planted anywhere, and it grows tall enough to carry the whole world home.